Why hard work alone will never make you wealthy. The observer's code for strategic success. There is a story your culture told you very early. Work hard. Keep your head down, put in the hours, be reliable, be consistent, be the person who stays longest and complains least. And eventually, the story promises, the work will be rewarded, the effort will compound, the sacrifice will be noticed by someone who matters, and the life you want will arrive as the logical result of the labor you invested. Most people spend decades living inside this story. They work harder than almost everyone around them. They sacrifice more. They show up earlier and leave later. They are, by every visible measure, doing exactly what they were told to do. And they wonder, quietly in the moments when honesty is unavoidable, why it isn't working, why the gap between their effort and their outcome refuses to close, why the people who seem to be doing less appear to be building more. The answer is not that they are failing. The answer is that they are playing a game with incomplete rules. And the rule they were never given is the one that changes everything. Hard work is necessary. It has always been necessary, but it was never sufficient. And the people who understand the difference between necessary and sufficient are the ones who actually get somewhere. Today, we decode that difference. This is the observer's code for strategic success. Let's start with the mechanism that most people never examine. Hard work by itself is a linear input. You put in time and effort, and you receive a proportional return. More hours, more output, more compensation. Now, the relationship is direct, predictable, and fundamentally limited by one constraint that cannot be overcome through effort alone. There are only so many hours available. The ceiling of hard work is the ceiling of your personal time and energy. No matter how disciplined, how focused, how relentless you are, you cannot work more than the hours that exist, which means pure effort, operating without leverage, always hits the same wall. The people who build significant wealth, financial, professional, or otherwise, are not working harder than the people who don't. In many cases, they are working considerably less. What they are doing differently is operating with leverage. Leverage means that each unit of your effort produces more than one unit of return. It means that something, a system, a network, a skill, a piece of information, a positioned relationship, amplifies the output of the work you put in. Hard work without leverage is a treadmill. Hard work with leverage is a ramp. The observer understands this not as an excuse to avoid effort, but as the most important strategic fact about how value is actually created, and they use it to design their work differently from the very beginning. Here are the 7 patterns that separate strategic builders from hard workers, not as character judgments, as operating systems. Pattern 1. They invest in positioning before they invest in output. The hard worker asks, how can I produce more? The strategic observer asks, where should I be producing, so that the same output creates the maximum return? Positioning is the decision about which game to play, in which arena, at which moment. A brilliant musician playing in an empty venue is producing the same quality of work as one playing to a full room. The output is identical. The return is not. Strategic builders spend significant time that looks unproductive from the outside, analyzing which positions offer asymmetric returns, where their specific combination of skills and perspective creates a differentiated advantage, where the competition is structurally weak, where the timing is favorable. They appear to be doing nothing. They are doing the most important thing. Pattern 2. They treat information as a primary asset. Hard workers see information as a tool, something you use to do the work better. Strategic observers see information as the work itself, the ability to see something before others see it. A market shift, a behavioral pattern, an emerging need, a structural weakness in a system, is worth more than almost any technical skill, because it creates a window, a period of time in which you can move while others are still figuring out that movement is required. The observer cultivates this ability deliberately. They read widely across disciplines. They pay attention to the edges of conversations. to what is being mentioned but not yet named. They develop the habit of asking about every signal they encounter. What does this suggest is coming next? Information asymmetry is the oldest and most durable form of competitive advantage. The person who knows first always has the option to move first. Pattern 3. They build systems that work without them. The hard worker's output stops the moment they stop. The strategic builder constructs things. Processes, key products, relationships, reputations that continue producing return when direct effort is suspended. This is the fundamental architecture of leverage, and it requires a specific cognitive shift. From thinking about what you are doing right now to thinking about what you are building that will outlast the current moment. This shift is difficult inside a culture that measures value by visible activity. The person building a system often appears less busy than the person running one, but the person running a system is trapped in it. The person who built it has options. Pattern 4. They protect and deploy their attention with precision. Attention is the scarcest resource in a knowledge economy. Not time, attention. Now, two people can have identical hours and produce completely different outcomes based on where their cognitive focus was directed. The hard worker tends to give attention to whoever demands it most urgently, to the loudest problem, the most pressing deadline, the most insistent person. This is not laziness or poor character. It is the natural response to an environment designed to capture and redirect your focus. The strategic observer treats their attention like capital. They decide in advance what their attention is worth and what it is not. They create conditions, physical, social, temporal, that protect their deepest thinking from constant interruption. And they direct that protected attention toward the problems and opportunities where their insight creates the most asymmetric return. The person who controls their attention controls their trajectory. The person whose attention is controlled by their environment works for their environment. Pattern 5. They build relationships based on value exchange, not proximity. Hard workers often build relationships by being present, by being reliable colleagues, consistent contributors, likable teammates. These relationships are real and they have value. But they are proximity-based, which means they are constrained by physical and organizational context. When you leave the organization, most of them leave with it. Strategic builders construct relationships differently. They focus on genuine value exchange, on becoming someone whose perspective, skill, or access creates real utility for a small number of people who matter enormously to their trajectory. These relationships are durable because they are not contingent on being in the same place. They survive context changes because they are built on something real. The observer understands that a small number of deeply valuable relationships creates more leverage than a large number of shallow ones. They invest accordingly. Pattern 6. They understand the difference between being busy and being productive. Busyness is a cultural performance. It is the visible signal that you are working, that you are contributing, that you are worthy of your position. In many organizational cultures, busyness is the primary currency of perceived value. Productivity is the actual generation of outcomes that matter. It is entirely possible to be extraordinarily busy and produce very little of real consequence. It is also possible, though culturally suspicious, to work few hours and produce outcomes that far exceed those of the busiest person in the room. The strategic observer has made peace with looking less busy than the people around them. Not because they are working less, but because they have stopped optimizing for the performance of effort and started optimizing for the reality of outcome. This requires a particular kind of psychological security. The ability to tolerate being seen as doing less when you know that what you are doing is more. The observer has this security because their self-assessment is internal, not dependent on the perception of people who are measuring the wrong thing. Pattern 7. They consistently take asymmetric bets. A symmetric bet is one where the potential upside is roughly proportional to the potential downside. Most hard workers only take symmetric bets. Small, safe, proportional. They work a little harder for a little more. They take the raise that is offered rather than the risk that could change the trajectory. Strategic builders look for asymmetric opportunities, situations where the potential upside is dramatically larger than the potential downside, where the worst case is survivable and the best case is transformative, where the risk is real but bounded and the reward is not. These opportunities are not rare. They are simply invisible to people who are too busy managing the treadmill to look for the ramp. The observer's practice of reading rooms, patterns, and systems is what makes these opportunities visible. Because asymmetric opportunities almost always require seeing something that others have not yet seen. And that is precisely what the observer is trained to do. Here is what this means practically. It does not mean stop working hard. Hard work is the baseline. Without it, none of the leverage matters because there is nothing to amplify. It means work hard on the right things, in the right positions, in the right direction, where your effort is multiplied rather than simply exchanged for time. It means spend time on strategy that looks like doing nothing, on positioning that looks like waiting, on relationship building that looks like socializing, on learning that looks like reading. These are not distractions from the work. They are the architecture that makes the work compound. It means accept that the most important decisions you will ever make are the ones about where to aim your effort, not how much effort to deploy. Direction matters more than velocity. The hardest working person moving in the wrong direction will always be outpaced by the strategic person moving in the right one. The observer does not work less. They work differently. And different, applied consistently over time with leverage, builds everything that hard work alone never could. If you have been working hard and wondering why the result does not match the effort, you are not doing it wrong. You are doing it incompletely. The rest of the equation has been available the whole time. You simply needed someone to give you the full set of rules. Subscribe, because every week we publish a new layer of the code. The strategic patterns underneath the surface of success. The behavioral psychology of the people who build while others simply grind. The observer's manual for moving through a world that rewards leverage over labor. You already have the work ethic. Now build the strategy around it. That is the observer's code.